Stay away from my children, you tattooed freak. Those cruel words echoed daily in the small town of Clearfield, shadowing Daniel Carter wherever he went. No one seemed to see the decorated Marine beneath the ink, just his tattoos. But everything changed the day an 8-year-old girl was trapped by fire, and Daniel ran into the flames. Daniel Carter never expected to return to Clearfield. After 12 years in the Marines, including 3 grueling tours in Afghanistan, the hometown baseball star had become someone unrecognizable to the town that once cheered for him. His tattoos, covering his arms, back, and neck, told stories Clearfield refused to hear. Every trip to Jensen's grocery meant watching parents subtly steer their children away. Every morning at Millie's Cafe meant taking his seat in silence while the conversations around him stalled or ended altogether. Daniel took his coffee black, left the exact change, and spoke only when absolutely necessary. "We do not need someone like that coaching our youth," Mayor Bradford had declared when Daniel applied to coach the town's Little League team. The rejection stung more than Daniel let on. Baseball had once been his entire life. The field behind Clearfield Elementary was where his father had taught him to throw a fastball before cancer took him at 42. The official letter cited a desire to find a candidate whose values better reflect Clearfield. Daniel folded the paper carefully and placed it in a drawer, joining a stack of rejections. A job at the high school as a security officer, a position on the county maintenance team, a teaching role at the community college. Each rejection sent the same unspoken message. Your service was good enough for the military, but your appearance is not good enough for us. There was one exception. Mrs. Langston, the 80-year-old widow next door, whose husband had died in Korea, often left pies on his doorstep. Her notes always ended the same way. "Thank you for your service, young man." But even that kindness could not erase the town's collective judgment. Daniel worked remotely as an IT specialist, a job that let him avoid interaction. But the nights were harder. In his grandmother's old house, the silence was so heavy it drove him out. Often he would drive 40 minutes to Veterans Post 221 in the next county, a place where others understood the weight of combat, the hypervigilance, the nightmares. On his back, Daniel carried a large tattooed memorial. 4 names: Baker, Hernandez, Miller, and Rhodes, his fallen squad members. Underneath their names, the words read, "Until Valhalla." No one in Clearfield had ever asked what it meant. No one wanted to know. Then came the fire. Sirens screamed through the quiet afternoon. Daniel's instincts kicked in before thought. Emergency signals meant someone was in danger. He sprinted toward the column of black smoke rising just blocks away. When he arrived at the scene, flames had already engulfed the first floor of the Parker family home. Clearfield's volunteer fire department was still struggling to connect hoses. Emily Parker fought against Fire Chief Lawson's hold. "My daughter is upstairs," she screamed, voice raw. "She is only 8. "Ma'am, we cannot go in yet," Lawson said, voice tight. "The structure is unstable." Daniel pushed through the crowd. "Which room?" he demanded. Emily hesitated. Recognition flickered in her fear. The tattooed man no one wanted around their children. But desperation won. "Second floor, right side." "Pink curtains," she choked out. Daniel nodded, wrapped his shirt around his face, and bolted toward the house. "Carter, stop!" Lawson shouted. But Daniel was already inside. Heat hit like a wave. Smoke seared his throat and eyes. Dropping low, he crawled under the worst of it, heading for the stairs. Flames licked up the railing. He took the steps 3 at a time. Embers burned his arms and shoulders, but he pressed on. "Lena," he called, voice muffled. A faint cough answered from the far hallway. He found her under a bed, curled tightly, frozen with fear. "I've got you," he said, pulling her close. "Hold on and do not let go." She pressed her face into his chest. The way back was worse. Part of the staircase had collapsed. Daniel leapt the gap, clutching Lena to him. Pain tore through his back as debris struck him. But the mission was clear. Get the child out. Bursting through the front door, his shirt was half burned away, revealing the full tapestry of ink across his body. Blisters had formed, burns now mixing with the tattoos. And for a moment, Clearfield saw him. Saw all of him. Emily rushed to him, sobbing as she took her daughter. Paramedics tended to both of them. Daniel waved off offers to ride to the hospital. Second-degree burns on the back and shoulders, one medic murmured. "I'm fine," Daniel insisted. He had endured worse. Chief Lawson approached, jaw tight. That was either brave or foolish. She needed help, Daniel said simply. As the ambulance pulled away, Daniel limped home. People stared, whispered, "Did you see his back?" He ran in without thinking. What are those names tattooed there? But for once, the whispers were tinged with something besides suspicion. Respect, maybe, gratitude. And in less than a day, whispers would be the least of Clearfield's surprises. The next morning, the Clearfield Gazette featured Daniel on the front page. The headline read, "Local Veteran Saves Child from House Fire." Beneath it, a cell phone photo captured the moment Daniel emerged from the flames, carrying Lena Parker. For once, the article didn't lead with tattooed veteran. Instead, it called him a decorated Marine whose combat experience had prepared him for a heroic rescue. Daniel barely noticed the paper. He spent the morning applying burn cream, jaw clenched against the pain. He had just poured a cup of coffee when he heard it. The unmistakable rumble of motorcycles. Dozens. Growing louder. Through the front window, Daniel saw them. Riders turning onto his street, each wearing a leather vest marked with military insignias. Tattooed veterans. Inked arms, necks, and hands visible as they parked. Daniel stopped counting at 50. Neighbors peeked through curtains. Some stepped onto porches. A tall man with iron gray hair and a posture that screamed officer stepped up to Daniel's door. Before he could knock, Daniel opened it. "Sergeant Carter?" the man said, smiling faintly. "Colonel Matthew Dalton. Retired. 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines." Daniel snapped to attention. "Yes, sir." "At ease, Marine. This isn't a drill." "Then what is it?" Daniel asked, watching as more veterans filled the street. "Word travels fast," Dalton explained. "We heard what you did, and we've heard how this town's treated one of our own. Every one of us here has served. Every one of us bears ink that tells a story, and we are done letting civilians judge what they don't understand." A younger man approached, prosthetic leg visible. "Sir, local post confirms they're en route. ETA 30 minutes. "I don't want trouble," Daniel said quietly. "I'm just trying to live in peace." "No trouble," Dalton said. "But it's time Clearfield learned what this ink means." He tapped Daniel's chest, right over the memorial tattoo. "Those names, they're your brothers, aren't they?" Daniel nodded. Before he could speak, more vehicles arrived, pickup trucks, SUVs with vet plates. A man in his 40s stepped forward. "Jackson Lee, VFW commander from Ridgefield. We've been trying to get you to join for 2 years." "No Clearfield post," Daniel said flatly. "Maybe there should be," Lee replied. "Plenty of veterans here, all hiding. That ends today." "What are you planning?" Daniel asked. Dalton's smile turned grim. "Education, the kind that sticks." By noon, Clearfield Park had transformed. Tents and booths lined the walkways. Flags representing each military branch waved in the breeze. There were resource tables, VA representatives, and food stands. But the centerpiece, the one that froze townspeople mid-step, was the stories behind our ink exhibit. Veterans stood ready beside banners and displays, explaining the meanings behind their tattoos, memorials, unit insignias, dates, coordinates. Every piece etched into skin told a story. Dalton had somehow secured city permits or made them irrelevant with sheer presence. Mayor Bradford arrived late, declaring the event an official Veterans Appreciation Day, but he kept his distance from the more heavily tattooed attendees. Convenient timing, Daniel muttered. Dalton chuckled. Nothing like a crowd to make a politician sweat. Fire Chief Lawson and the Parker family soon arrived. Lena spotted Daniel instantly. "Mr. Carter," she yelled, sprinting over to hug him. "The doctor says I'm okay. Just a little smoke." Daniel knelt, grimacing as his healing back twinged. "That's good news, kiddo. Mom says you're a real hero, like in the movies. Your mom's too kind." Lena stared at his arm. "Your tattoos are cool. I like the eagle. And the names on your back, those your friends?" The directness caught Daniel off guard. "Yes," he said softly. "My friends. They didn't make it home. So you carry them with you? Always?" "Exactly." He hadn't noticed the small crowd forming around them. One face stood out. Coach Taylor, the man who'd gotten the Little League job. His expression was sheepish. "I didn't know," Taylor said, "what the tattoos meant." "You never asked," Daniel replied, not harshly. That afternoon, the park filled. Residents once wary now asked questions, especially the kids. Daniel found himself explaining the Marine emblem, the map of Helmand Province, the autism ribbon for his younger brother. "Wait, you have a brother with autism?" asked Mrs. Cooper, who had once told him to stay away from her son at the grocery store. "Yes, ma'am. He lives in Columbus with our aunt. That's why I recognized the signs in your son last year." Her eyes welled. "I'm so sorry. I just assumed." "That's the problem with assumptions," Daniel said. "They leave no room for truth." As the sun began to set, Colonel Dalton called for the crowd's attention. The veterans gathered behind him, forming a united line, their presence a silent testament to the service they had given and the judgment they had faced. "Today, you've seen the stories behind our ink," Dalton said, his voice calm but forceful. "These tattoos honor those we lost, mark where we've been, and remind us of promises we made and kept. But there's one more story you all need to hear." He gestured to Daniel. "This man is more than a decorated Marine or a local hero. Daniel Carter is a recipient of the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star for valor. Under heavy enemy fire, he carried 3 wounded Marines to safety. His back bears the names of 4 who didn't make it." The crowd was silent. Many stared at Daniel with wide eyes. Daniel stepped forward, uneasy but steady. "Those tattoos you've judged for years?" he said. "They aren't decoration. They're memorials. Each name inked on me is someone I trained with, fought beside, and lost." Mayor Bradford shifted uncomfortably, then stepped up to the microphone. "On behalf of Clearfield, I want to thank Sergeant Carter and every veteran here today. We've clearly made mistakes in how we treat our returning heroes." Colonel Dalton stepped in before Daniel could respond. "We aren't here for apologies, Mayor. We're here because saying thank you for your service means nothing if you turn your back on those same people at home." As dusk settled, the veterans began a candlelit ceremony. One by one, each veteran with a memorial tattoo stepped up, reading the names they carried. For every name, a candle was lit and placed along a temporary wall. When it was Daniel's turn, he didn't waver. Lance Corporal Michael Baker, Sergeant Luis Hernandez, Corporal Adam Miller, Lance Corporal Joel Rhodes. October 14th, 2009. Helmand Province. Our vehicle hit an IED. I was the only survivor. His voice did not break, but many in the crowd wiped away tears. After the ceremony, Emily Parker approached with Lena. "We're having a small gathering next weekend," she said. "Just neighbors and friends." "A thank you. We'd love for you to come." "I'll be there," Daniel promised. As he walked home, flanked by Colonel Dalton and several veterans who had stayed behind, Daniel noticed porch lights on, neighbors nodding greetings, a few even offering quiet thank yous. "They'll forget," Daniel said to Dalton. "Give it a month. It'll go back to the way it was." "Not this time," Dalton replied. "We're not all leaving. There are over 20 veterans within 30 miles who are tired of hiding. We're founding a VFW post here, and we want you to lead it." "One day won't undo years," Daniel said. "No," Dalton agreed. "But it's a start, and we'll be back every Veterans Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, until this town remembers not to forget us." 6 months later, Clearfield had changed. Some shifts were subtle, others more visible. The newly chartered VFW post, 3182, met twice a month in the community center. Daniel Carter was its quartermaster. Each meeting welcomed townsfolk, an open invitation to understand more about military life and the meanings behind veterans' tattoos. Mayor Bradford, now campaigning for re-election, had made veteran outreach a pillar of his platform. The town's youth baseball program added a position for Daniel, focusing on kids with special needs, like his younger brother. On a cool spring morning, Daniel walked into Jensen's grocery. People nodded, spoke. Mr. Jensen himself poured a fresh cup of coffee. "Morning. Sergeant Carter, coffee's fresh." "Thanks," Daniel said, still getting used to the shift. As he walked the aisles, a young man stocking shelves caught his attention. Tattoos peeked from under rolled sleeves. Military, subtle, but meaningful. "Afghanistan or Iraq?" Daniel asked. The man looked up. "Afghanistan, 2017 to 2019. "You?" "Earlier war," Daniel said, offering a hand. "Daniel Carter, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. James Ellis, 10th Mountain Division." They shook hands. Veterans connecting in a way few understood. "Heard this town's different now," Ellis said. "Getting there," Daniel replied. A small voice interrupted. "Coach Daniel." Lena ran down the aisle, followed by her mother. "Mom says I can join your team? Are you still teaching us about the ribbon tattoo?" "That's the plan," Daniel said, smiling at Emily. "We're having a cookout this weekend," she said. "Just neighbors and friends. You should come." "You too, James." Outside the store, James gave Daniel a questioning look. "That happen a lot now?" "More than it used to. The fire changed minds. So did the veterans showing up." "What about the tattoos?" "People still look," Daniel said, "but now they ask questions instead of turning away." Later that day, as Daniel coached his team of special needs kids, he spotted Mayor Bradford in the bleachers. After practice, the mayor approached. "Got a minute? What can I do for you? Town council approved a permanent veterans memorial. We'd like your input." As VFW rep, he handed Daniel a folder of designs. Daniel flipped through them. "Looks good. I'll bring it to our next meeting." "There's more," Bradford said, rolling up his sleeve to reveal a new tattoo. "Military insignia. My dad served in Vietnam. Never talked about it. I found his medals after he passed. Wanted to honor him. Your friend Ellis did the work." Daniel studied the ink. Simple, respectful. "Good work," he said. "I get it now," Bradford said. "The ink. It's about remembering." "Among other things," Daniel replied. "On Memorial Day, Clearfield dedicated its permanent monument in the town park. Veterans came from across the state. The polished granite bore the names of those who had served and those who hadn't come home." Daniel stood at the podium. Familiar faces watched. Civilians and veterans side by side. "A year ago," he said, "I was invisible here. My tattoos made me a stranger in my hometown. He placed a hand on the memorial. We judged each other in silence. Me, assuming you wouldn't understand. You, assuming I had nothing worth knowing. But we were wrong. These names carved in stone, they deserve more than our silence. And the stories inked on our skin deserve to be seen, to be heard. Not because they make us heroes, but because they make us human. The crowd was still. Then applause rippled through them. Afterward, Lena found Daniel. I told Mom I want a tattoo like yours someday. Not the big ones, maybe just the ribbon. That's a talk for many years from now, Daniel said gently. She tapped her chest. Mom says the most important things are here, but sometimes putting them on the outside helps others understand. Your mom's right. As he walked home that evening, Daniel passed neighbors who now greeted him by name. Some stopped to chat. Others waved from porches. His phone buzzed. Message from Colonel Dalton. 4 more veterans moving to your area next month. Clearfield is becoming the example. Good work, Marine. Daniel smiled. That evening, at the VFW meeting, they held another story circle. More tattoos, more stories, more understanding. In a world quick to judge, Clearfield had learned a lesson. Written in ink, sealed by fire. That courage comes in many forms. That heroes are often overlooked, and that the deepest stories can be found on the skin of those we once feared to see.